This is the LX 570. We borrowed this vehicle today from our friends at Heinz Toyota in Mankato, Minnesota. Hey folks, I'm Rob.
And I'm Nathan.
And we are Two Guys in a Ride. And today, Nathan, what are we taking a look at?
Oh, today we are looking at the Lexus LX 570.
That's right. And although it's a little chilly out here, we're still going to take a review. We're going to take a test drive and review. But say, before we do, if you'd like to keep up to date with all the new cars, trucks, and SUVs, and you want to learn how to use the infotainment systems built into these cars, plus you like cool collector car stories,
take a moment to hit that subscribe button down below and hit that bell notification up above so you never miss a video.
That's right. So what do you say, Nate?
Let's go for a ride. Alright, so welcome to our detailed video on the Driver's Information Center and the Infotainment Center. So starting off over here, you got your driver's information screen in the middle, and then of course your analog gauges on the either side. So basically these buttons are the ones that you want to use, and so if I scroll left to right, that will give me the menu items. So information, here's stuff on just on the vehicle. Here's navigation, here's media, here is your adaptive cruise control, here's any messages the vehicle is going to give you, and then any place you can make setting changes is right here. So I'm going to go back to the first one. It just says information. So if I now use my up and down scroll buttons, you'll see these little arrows going up and down, and there's a little bar between, so I can go ahead and just click through several pages of information. Okay, and then when it gets to the end, it just gives you a blank screen, then restarts. But there's your average miles per gallon, that kind of stuff. All right, let's move over one more here. All right, so on this one here, it actually tells you what position your wheels are turned, which I'm not sure I've seen that before. That's just really neat. And there's more. Okay, if I go down here, I get tire pressure. Okay, so those are, would be like warnings. And it does your spare tire too, which is cool. Again, an unusual thing. All right, oil maintenance, and then it goes back to your steering wheel position. Okay, one more over to the right is, of course, your navigation. And if I had a route plotted in, that would show up turn by turn in here as well. All right, so next one over is media, and in order to get that one to function, you do need to press the center little dot between the arrows, but then you can scroll through all your sources right here, and there's quite a few. All right, let's go back here a minute, and we'll go one more over. There's your adaptive cruise control. This is the gap setting button on the wheel, so if your cruise control is on, let that get out of the way there. Now I can set my gap setting with this button. Okay, and we'll go back over here. That is the only thing in this particular screen. So if I go one more to the right, okay, any warning messages, low fuel, low tire pressure, that'll all show up right here. And then I go one more, and this is where you can do some changes if you want. Lane departure assist, if I click on that, then you've got, what do you want as your alert? How sensitive do you want it? Do you want sway warning on? All this kind of stuff. And then you would just push that button to change it, that little dot button between the arrows. Okay, same thing with blind spot warning system. So this is on the blind spot monitoring. Again, you can have it on or off. Just as an example, we go up here, we click this, it goes to off. And now we have it back on again. All right, this is your back button. HUD display. This does have a very nice full color HUD display. And so if I go in here, I can affect the position and brightness of it. Okay, just by here it says down, up arrows is position. And then the actual on off for the whole system is on the left. And I showed you that on the general review. And then if you go up and down, that's position, and then left and right is the brightness. If I go back one, I can say I either want navigation on or off on my HUD display. Driving assists, tells me what kind of assists I have running on the car. That can be on or off. Compass on or off. And then audio, whatever you have on your infotainment that's playing. Okay, so it's really nice. You have a lot of stuff that you can customize there. All right. Then if I go down one more, I've got scheduled maintenance. Scheduled maintenance. I can't say that. All right, so I'm not going to reset the data, of course. And then oil maintenance, and then meter settings. And then again, you would just click on the dot, and then you can get in there. Now you can change some of those settings in there. So a lot of information right in that screen. Okay, now I'll go back here. That's pretty much the last one on this driver's information center. Okay. Over here, you do have your volume controls up and down for your media, and then you can look at scrolling, like what's the next radio station, that kind of stuff. Go backwards, forwards. You can hit the different modes to select. What do you want for your media? Do you want the 3.5 millimeter jack input, or do you want Pandora or whatever? Okay. And then phone on, phone off. You know what? There's one more thing I want to show you here while we're looking at the dashboard. You see where it says N and then has arrows up and down? This is the graphic that's going to show where your truck is. There's sort of 3 levels you can raise it to or lower it to. And I'll show you real quickly where that button is once we're done. But what's going to happen is I am going to push this button right here. I'm just going to push it up. And then what's going to happen is it's going to start to blink on the dashboard. Now, it indicates that I'm going upwards with an up arrow, and it says high. So I only have to push it once. I don't have to hold it. And it is raising the vehicle. Kind of does sort of one end first and then the other. But it will stop flashing when it's raised. Can you drive while the vehicle is doing this? Absolutely. So now I'm up all the way, and it tells me that. So that's what that little graphic down there is for. Okay, well, let's move over to the infotainment screen. Controlling all of this is not a touch screen. Down here, you have a really nice interface. Basically, this big knob here is your mouse. And it's not a trackpad, it's a physically moving mouse. And what I find most interesting about it is it's like a gated shifter. So when there are icons or things for it to go by, it actually physically gives you a click. And you can feel the click in your hands. So you know when you're going by something, right? When you're in a screen like navigation, it'll rotate freely when there's not anything in the way. If I go to map and I'm just going around, it's not clicking on me at all. The mouse is just flowing fluidly. But if I go over here, now it's giving me a hard click, and I can just feel it. So that's a nice feature. Okay, so what does this all have on it? Let's get back to menu for a minute. Over here, you've got your destinations for your navigation. Over here, you've got radio. So if I just click on that for a minute, and that's just a push down on that mouse button. Okay. It wants to go through my phone here. I don't want to go to my phone, so you see where source is highlighted? So I'm just gonna click on source for a minute. And I'm gonna change it to, let's say FM. Okay, and I also have satellite on here if I want. Okay, so that's gonna be my source now. All right, so now you can see all your radio stations displayed, and you can just use your mouse to scroll up through them. If you want to go to the next page, you do need to click over and go to the arrow and press down or up. Okay, that's all that. So I'm going to use my back button here. Okay, I can also go to media, and if I go to media and press OK, I can still press on this source button up here and kind of get the same thing I had, well, exact same thing I had in the radio, where I can pick my source. This is all stuff from my phone. Okay, so let's go backwards a minute. So it's kind of 2 places you can access all that information. All right, here's your phone stuff. Since I currently do not have my phone connected, there would not be anything to display there. But if you had your phone connected, that's where it would go. Now, Lexus has an app suite, and there are some mobile apps you can download. One of them will allow you to monitor your car, like, you know, start, stop, or remote start, stop, unlock, lock doors, that kind of stuff. There's even one where you can set a setting where if someone borrows your car, you can set certain, like, I don't want you to go over 65, or I don't want you to do this, and it will alert you if anything happens that's not supposed to. Okay, so then you also just have all these apps in here. Let me go down here and get to more. There we go. Okay, so you got lots of different options in here. Okay, we'll go back. Okay, under info, we click on here. You've got fuel consumption, traffic incidents, weather, Lexus Insider, and vehicle alert history if there's a recall or something. All right, back again. If I go to climate, even though you have physical controls for your climate control, you can get a nice graphic display and then use your mouse to connect and change things here. Back again. This last one here is set up, so you can go through different settings, general things, voice, Bluetooth, audio, traffic. You've got navigation, vehicle, phone, data services, all sorts of things that you can change the settings on. So, for instance, here we have Lexus Park Assist. So if I click on that, it'll tell you, you know, here's your alert volume, and it's set to 3, but I can have it to 1 or 5. The display, I can turn the display off if I want, or I can turn, let's see here. Okay, that little light comes on if the display is off. We obviously want the display on, so we're going to leave it. And then you can actually come down here and you can adjust your distance. You have two, whoops, gonna move your mouse, oops, no, let me stay there. Okay, you just click, mouse is not wanting to stay there. There we go. Front and then, so close and a little further away for your warnings. Okay. And let's see, let's do drive mode customization. If I click on here, I can set powertrain, chassis, and climate. So if I click on powertrain, I could say, oh, I want power. And then I'll say for chassis, I want comfort. And then for climate, I'll go economically. Don't laugh, Rob. I'm going economically on something. All right, so you can have all sorts of customizations there. All right, I'm going to use the back button here. And so that's the end of that particular menu. I do like that it's a split screen. So you always see kind of what's in your on your infotainment screen as far as like what's playing. And if I move my mouse all the way over, not only can I switch between the different sources here, and if my phone were connected or if there were a disc in, those things would light up, or a USB. But I can also go over here and I can quickly, you know, with shortcuts here, select some of the other functions like climate control and that kind of stuff. All right, let's go back to menu for a minute. All right, so let me just quickly show you the navigation here. If I click on map, you see that split screen stays, which is really nice. Now, the other feature you do have is right up next to the dashboard, there is a camera button. So if you want to see with your 360 cameras, but your car isn't in reverse or something, if you click it, the infotainment screen can switch to showing you the camera right away. So you've got different views. Okay, so if I got my mouse here now, okay, I can click, and I'm changing between, right now I've got the front view on, and if I did the rear view, I would get some additional guidelines there. Okay, I can take it off of, I can leave it on auto or turn it off of auto. Okay, and then if I hit it again, that same button up by the steering wheel, then I get a side-by-side view, and I get guidelines, which is really nice. Then if I turn again, it goes back to navigation. So in other words, you can have those cameras functioning at times other than in reverse. Okay, let's move on down here. It is, by the way, a 19 speaker Mark Levinson sound system, which is just crazy. It's awesome. All right, moving down here, you've got physical controls for your media center here, as well as your hazard buttons. So then down here, you just have all of your buttons for setting your climate control system, as well as your fan speed, right? Okay, so let's talk about the four-wheel drive control systems down here, because this does have quite a complete set of controls. So to use the crawl mode here for ascending or descending the hill, first of all, you need to put it in 4 low. To do that, you need to first go to neutral. You need to push this down and then backwards. Okay? Now it's going to light up to 4 low. Okay? Next, I have to put it in drive or reverse. And then I can turn on crawl mode. Crawl mode is activated, the dashboard says. And I've got a little speed setting here. You can see the dots going back and forth. I can set my speed as to how fast I want to go while I'm crawling. So I don't have to worry about the accelerator. I just worry about steering. And the way I'm changing that speed is right down here with that. Okay? Now, while I'm in crawl mode, if I need to make a turn, it's difficult because it wants to bind. And so you can use this button right here, which allows you, it's called a turn assist. And it allows you to much easier turn the wheel without binding everything. Okay? Now, I turn that off. Okay? And I deactivate crawl, but I've still left it in 4 low. Now, this same button that was my speed controller now becomes a terrain selector. So, up on the dashboard, you'll see that currently it says multi-terrain select rock and dirt. If I spin it, I get rock. If I go backwards again here, I get moguls, and then loose rock, and then mud and sand. So those are your choices. So, just in 4 low, you get the mode selector. If you turn on crawl mode, then you get the speed selector out of this. So it does 2 different things. All right, so we're gonna get out of this now. All right. And then once you take it out of 4 low, crawl automatically disengages. Okay, let's step into the back and take a look at the technology there. Okay, so in the back, there's a lot of technology. And to start off with, let's just talk about these 2 big screens that are sticking out. So they are adjustable, okay, height, as far as tilting goes, so you can get a good angle. But the controller is in the armrest. And if I go down here, and I can just pull it out. Okay, so it has a left and right selector, depending on which TV you want to control, or right now it's set in the middle, which means I can control both TVs. So there's my power button. Works very much like your remotes at home. So if I hit that, you're gonna see everything come up on the screen. Now, there's nothing connected to play, so we won't see any actual movie or anything play. However, if I hit the input, I can change it. You can see the different things that are changing. So where are all these little sources? Right down here would be all those, a lot of those sources. You've got an HDMI plug-in here, and you've got a, it's like a 1/8" jack connector, but would be the kind that would have 3 rings on it, would come off of, say, like a PlayStation, like an RCA to an 1/8", but it would have 3 rings, and that would plug in here and do your audio and media from that. So you could play games through the consoles. You got volume controls, and you got your plugins for your headphones. So that's all right there. Okay? If you want to play a DVD or something, that can be done from the front. You can also control the rear infotainment from the front as well. Okay? And then the rest of it is just all controlled through this remote. So very, very nice, and very nice screens. They're about 11.3 inches each. And it has a nice little secure spot to sit there. And then your earphones could lay right in there. All All right, now, in addition to that, you do have your whole climate control system here. So you've got heated and ventilated seats on both sides, and I love the fact that it's auto. All right, so both sides have temperature control. So if I just push and hold, and it's a nice soft button. It's not a hard plasticky button. It's a rubber button. Fan speed right here. And of course your mode. And then of course you could turn the fan off completely. And then they have an auto function so that each side can maintain its own temperature. And I'll do the same in the front. So I specifically like the fact that it's included in the armrest, because I just like having those controls right at your fingertip. Now you may be thinking, well, where is the cup holders? Well, if I push down in here, they pop right out of the center. So you still have your cup holders right down here. And that's it for the technology in the back seat. But I'll tell you, it is comfortable and it's loaded. You'd have a very nice trip in this car.